Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions. My co-host Stacie here to talk about the original Quantum Leap, Season 4, Episode 15, titled A Song for the Soul. The episode's description reads as follows. Singing in a 1960s black girl band, Sam must save one member from an unscrupulous nightclub owner. The episode was written by Deborah Pratt, and in fact, the episode came about because Deborah Pratt had a desire to see Sam Beckett leap into an African-American woman. The episode was directed by Michael W. Watkins, and the episode takes place on November 28, 1957, and originally aired on January 29, 1992. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things when this is not a spoiler-free podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms this podcast is now available on, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered, both quantum leap related and otherwise. If you're already on our YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. All right, shout-outs this week.
All right, what do we got?
We have a birthday for Maureen McCormick, who played Marsha Brady.
All right.
She was August 5th. Patty Yasataki, she unfortunately died. She was the one who played Nurse Ogawa in Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And we have a birthday for Sam Beckett. August the 8th.
A fictional birthday for Sam Beckett,
yes.
But of course an actual birthday for Donald Belisario.
Mm-hmm. So, shout out to Mimi Gallup, who was the first person to bring that to my attention. Of course, I would have gotten wind of that eventually anyway. But it's funny because she commented happy birthday to Sam Beckett on one of my X-Files podcasts. And that means that one of the few comments that I got on one of the X-Files podcasts is a birthday related to Sam Beckett and Quantum Leap. So that's kind of funny. Alpa said he didn't comment the previous week for a couple of reasons. One, he was on vacation in his hometown Wisco last weekend. And in addition to that, at the end of the month, he had to finish all his open July patient notes for billing purposes. So, in other words, it was not because he was, going to outer space and, teaching people how to shoot guns in the Wild Wild West or anything like that. But I like my story better.
Yeah. It's a little more exciting than patient billing, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But he also loved our Temptations Eyes podcast. He can't wait to finish Karate Kid Season 6 when that finally comes all the way out. And see Tamlin Tomita one last time. She's aged like fine wine. I hope that's not the last time we see Tamlin Tomita. I hope she continues to have a nice little career.
I think he meant for the last time in that series.
Yeah, that is probably what he meant. But he actually loved the previous episode, that'd be The Last Gunfighter. He says, I thought it built up to a good climax. I think the dialogue made the ending work. Stacie thought the ending needed a twist. The only twist he needed was that Dr. Sam Beckett's youth, and he explained sometimes you don't find a clever way to avoid the showdown. Sometimes you can't avoid your fate. This episode reminds me of a famous movie quote, "This country's hard on people. You can't stop what's coming. It ain't all waiting on you. That's vanity." That sounds familiar, but I'm not quite sure where that's from.
I don't know.
So, Mimi Gallup says that she's going to look forward to this one because he's a woman, again, dancing in a dress, and it's one of my favorite comedy episodes. I don't really know that this episode is that much of a comedy. It has comedic elements.
It has comedic elements. I mean, Sam in a dress is always funny.
Yep.
But yeah, the content of the episode isn't necessarily a comedy situation.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have that lighter air to it.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. It's we'll get into that. But yeah, okay. So that's my shout outs for this week.
Okay.
Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
All right, and I said this last week. I like this episode. This was always a fun one for me, and it really comes down to the setting. We're right where I like to be, the late 50s, early 60s. Love the music of the era, and this episode obviously features a lot of music, so we're focusing on that, so I love that. And I love those pink sparkly dresses, and I think it's great.
Okay, well, so I had said previously that I don't have a lot of memories from this episode.
Right.
Probably because I skipped it a bunch of times upon rewatch. It didn't really appeal to me as a kid. It's not something that I would have related to as a kid.
As a boy.
Yeah. As an adult, however, I do gravitate towards the the dad side of the storyline.
Right.
I do appreciate this episode much more watching it now in a way that I don't think I wouldn't have had the same appreciation for it way back in the day.
Sure.
As a result, I do think that this is a good episode. I do have some issues though.
Well, always do.
Right. Some issues basically with the ending. Like, I'm not totally convinced how we got to our ending.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
But, yeah, so, do we have anything else to say before diving in?
Oh, we might as well get right to our scene by scene.
Okay, so Sam leaps in, dancing in a black dress at the end of a song.
My Boyfriend's Back is the song.
The other two girls excitedly go off stage, and then both want to go back out there, dragging a reluctant Sam along, and credits. The girls, Linnell is played by Tammy Townsend, 77 credits for her, including 3 episodes of Switched at Birth, an episode of Jag, and 14 episodes of Family Matters.
She's also in 54 episodes of Days of Our Lives, 10 episodes of Average Joe. I never saw that one.
I heard about it.
But the Timeless Community, when that was happening, Average Joe was the other show that was being talked about a lot. I think it's got some sci-fi elements. It's one I wanted to look into, but then, it disappeared.
Yeah. I don't think that's available anywhere that I know of.
I don't think so.
So Paula is played by Takei Crystal Kima. She was a regular on Cosby, not to be confused with the Cosby show.
95 episodes of Cosby, which ran from 1996 to 2000, and I have zero memory of this show existing.
I knew it existed. I knew there was a second show. It's not Phil Huxtable. It's not set in the same universe or anything like that, but it does have Felicia Rashad once again playing his wife in that series.
Oh, yeah, I was like, what is this show that ran for like 4 or 5 seasons? I was totally flabbergasted.
Yeah.
But she was a regular in that, yes. She was also in 124 episodes of In Living Color.
Oh, yeah, okay.
As well as 78 episodes of That's So Raven.
And she was also recently in an episode of a Jim Carrey show called Kidding. She also has 4 directorial credits that I noticed. When we come back from the credits, the girls are doing another set, seeing their boyfriend is back again.
They were doing a reprise.
Okay.
So this is interesting because in the Leap Out last week, we got a different introduction than we did in the actual beginning of the episode. So from last week, we learned that the audience was calling for an encore, and I think it was probably Linnell who was like, we don't have another song to sing, and they said, let's just do a reprisal. So that means we're just going to do the same song again.
Gotcha.
But that setup was deleted from the actual episode.
Right. Okay, so they leave the club, and as they're walking on the street, they get accosted by some dudes. They are credited as Raghead Kid 1, 2, and 3.
Raghead Teen.
Okay.
1, 2, and 3. Which I was like, what is that about?
I don't know, but it sounds kind of vaguely racist.
It does. But also I don't see why they were called that.
I mean, I think they were wearing some kind of like bandana.
One of them was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that characterization. But yeah, so these 3 teen guys.
Yeah, one is played by Clyde Risley Jones, 63 credits for him. Emancipation with Will Smith, which is a movie, an episode of Fresh Prince in the Bel-Air, and an episode of NCIS New Orleans, meaning he could have had a reunion with Scott Bakula. Right. Kid number 2 is played by Tommy Morgan Jr., 33 credits for him, including 2 episodes of NYPD Blue, an episode of Beyond Belief, Backdoor Fiction, that was the series that Jonathan Frakes hosted,
right,
and a movie called Gun Shy.
I also have used in an episode of MacGyver and 2 episodes of Living Single.
Kid number 3 is played by Christopher M. Brown, 43 credits for him, including 2 episodes of Sequest DSB, 2 episodes of Frasier, and an episode of Jag.
He was also in an episode of MacGyver and an episode of Married with Children.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, these 3 guys are giving the girls a pretty hard time. This could have turned into a very different episode. And I'm kind of curious, how did this play out in the original history when Sam wasn't there to interfere?
Right.
Or intervene, rather, is the word I'm looking for. So Sam saves the day. He does his, karate kick stuff and is able to kind of chase these guys away.
The girls are pretty amused.
The whole situation really got tense because Paula was, very rude to them. Instead of just kind of walking away, she was saying things back. So things were about to turn really violent and really scary. And if Sam wasn't there, I don't know what would have happened. Some bad stuff would have happened.
Probably.
So how did they get through this in the original history?
I don't know.
Something obviously was different because it doesn't come up that you just saved them.
Right.
He just saved them.
Right. Maybe they took a different route because Sam was there and ended up in this bad situation.
Yeah, I don't know. But It's interesting to think about things like that, right?
Right.
Things that obviously he changed, but we don't talk about the fact that he changed something.
So, afterwards the girls are basically karate kicking in the street, and it's pretty amusing. They're imitating Sam, as Sam is pretty much continually trying to get them to go home. Apparently, their run-in with these rude guys was not enough to like convince them, hey, maybe we should go home.
Well, I mean, they were going home, but they were taking their sweet time.
A little bit faster, I would say.
Yeah, it's 2 a.m.
Maybe they're living on Adam time.
We're in Chicago. You know, they live in the city. It's not safe. That's the whole point. It's not safe for these 15-year-old girls to be out right now, gallivanting along and having a good old time of it.
Right.
They finally do get to Linnell's house, but her father, Reverend Walters, is, of course, very upset that his 15-year-old daughter's out at 2 a.m. Did they not expect him to be home? What did they think was about to happen?
I don't know, but he gives them a pretty good ass chewing.
Yes.
This is he's played by Harrison Page. 83 credits for him, including 22 episodes of Jag, 6 episodes of Ally McBeal, and 4 episodes of ER, which means he could have run into Eric LaSalle again.
He was also in 5 episodes of Better Things. I know I've mentioned that show before. It's an interesting one.
So he's called their parents, except he can't reach Sam's host parents. That would be Cherie.
They're out of town.
Yeah. And this Sam's host is Cherie. Linnell wants to sing, but he says she can do that at the church. She gets upset, saying she won't stay at the house that killed her mom and let it kill her too. And she ends up running upstairs all upset. Paula says that she didn't mean it, but the Reverend really does believe that she did. The Reverend ends up taking Paula home.
Well, it's fun. This is a funny moment. I like this part because Sam's like, I'll take Paula home so you can go talk to your daughter.
Right.
Forgetting that he's also a 15-year-old girl.
Right, yeah.
And the Reverend's like, then who's going to walk you back here?
Right. And Paula wants to say, well, she can take care of herself, but...
Yeah, she almost lets it slip about what happened with these guys, right? And we don't want the dad to find out about this. That's not going to help the situation.
He's mad enough as it is.
So Sam successfully stops her from spilling that story.
So Al appears 9 minutes and 14 seconds into the episode and doesn't have a lot of info. In fact, you should make a drinking game for how many times Al says no data in this scene.
Well, he did tell us that Linnell's mother died 5 years ago.
Right, which is funny because he says there's no data and then he proceeds to give some data.
Yes, he does that a lot, actually. She had spent 6 months in bed prior to her death. And so Sam thinks he's here to help Linnell deal with the mother's death. But of course, Ziggy doesn't know, doesn't have any idea if that's the right direction or not.
Al ends up saying that she ends up running away, ends up in a bunch of clubs.
More data after again we say no data.
Right.
It just keeps coming. It's catching up to them, I guess.
Right, I guess so. That she doesn't have a great life, getting kicked into a slave contract with Bobby Lee. Her father died in 1972, and they never end up speaking again. So we cut to the church. The choir is singing, and the Reverend ends up speaking, and Linnell just rolls her eyes the entire time.
So he basically takes his sermon as a chance to lecture Linnell some more. The whole thing is about her, and it's about her decisions to sing and how you have to protect your children or whatnot.
Right.
And of course, Linnell and Paula and Sam are all singing in the choir, showing that yes, we know they know how to sing. But he thinks this is enough. Just let them sing in church, and they should be happy with that.
Right. Sam tells Al he thinks he knows why he's there, and Ziggy says it's to keep Linnell out of show business. Sam says he's wrong. He wants to get her dad's blessing for singing and doing all that stuff. Al says to trust Ziggy's data over Sam's because Ziggy keeps better records.
Yeah, but I really think Sam has a better track record for figuring things out than Ziggy does.
I believe so.
And you know what? It's funny because the entire series of Sam knowing better than Ziggy does really just sets it up for all those decades that Sam's going to have to leap without Ziggy's help.
Right. Yeah.
Like we've proven he can handle himself.
Right. So we see the girls practicing their music and steps with Al because Sam wants to get the Reverend's support.
And so the day after tomorrow, there's a contest at the same club, at Bobby Lee's club. And the winner gets $100 and a tryout for the Regal Theater. But in the original history, Reverend Walters pulls Linnell off a stage, and that's when she runs away. So that's the whole goal, is to get them ready for this show.
Okay.
But Sam's like, but that means I'm going to have to sing.
Right.
And I can't do that.
Right. Well, actually, he's a pretty accomplished singer.
He is, but this isn't his forte.
You know, he's not good at singing 15-year-old girl songs.
Yeah, in 1960s Detroit, or they're in Chicago, but same difference. And I was like, I can help you. I can teach you the moves.
Because of course he can.
Because, like, that makes perfect sense that Al's capable of, teaching these girls how to dance.
Right, yeah. Bobby Lee ends up sneaking into the house. He's played by Eric LaSalle. He was in 171 episodes of ER, the movie Logan, and 5 episodes of Under the Dome.
Yes, he's in season 3, which we haven't gotten to yet in our coverage.
And the way we're going, we're never going to get there.
I mean, in a decade, we might.
So, Winnell is clearly taken with him. In the future, he's charged with statutory Me-Tooing.
Yeah. And the whole thing's just really creepy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how old he's supposed to be, but he's grown.
He's a grown man.
He's probably like 30.
In his 30s, yeah.
Yeah. And he's just in this 15-year-old girl's bedroom. Not only did he enter the house, but he went upstairs into her bedroom.
Yes, this man clearly has some boundary issues.
And Linnell doesn't see anything wrong with this. Now, what he did is he brought them a copy of Heat Wave, which just came out. It hasn't even hit the radio yet. And he's like, this is the song you should play. Now, obviously, he does want them to do well. His reasons for that, of course, are very, very wrong.
Right.
But he does want them to succeed in this contest. So it is helpful that, they have this good song to sing. But, yeah, this is really creepy and sketchy and weird.
Lee wants him to sign with them, with him specifically. The Reverend comes home and gets into a fight with him.
Because,
yeah, right.
He's in your house, this
right.
man who's probably, like, close to the same age as you.
Right. Threats are thrown around. He mentions that Winnell is 13. He, de-ages her.
He mentioned a friend of his, or someone in the congregation's 13-year-old daughter.
Okay, so I thought he was talking about Winnell.
No,
wait, she's 15.
He was kind of accusing him of something that happened.
Okay.
With another 13-year-old
Which is
girl.
probably true.
True.
Based on what we hear here.
Right.
But, Lee leaves. Winnell wants to go after him, but Sam stops her. He gets Al to get him the numbers of all the record producers to show Winnell that there are other options other than Bobby Lee. Winnell and Sam end up talking, and she blames her dad for her mother's death, basically saying that her mother decided to die. Now, initially, when I was hearing this conversation, I thought she meant that her mother committed suicide.
Right, and I remember thinking that at some point in life, watching this episode.
But that's apparently not the case.
That's not the case.
She dies from some kind of illness.
She had a very, very bad illness. But I think the point is she gave up.
Right.
She was ready to die, which isn't a bad thing if you know you're going to die.
Right.
But Linnell was young.
Like, how long ago was this in the episode time, do you think?
Oh, we have that number somewhere. The question is, where was that number said? She died 5 years ago. So
she was like 10 years old.
She was 10. And we know she was sick for like a year before that. So this is all a 9-10-year-old girl that was dealing with the loss of her mother.
And it's something, and it's an irrational thing that maybe you think as a kid that just kind of sticks with you.
Right. Her mom chose to leave her, is how she sees it, because she wasn't fighting to live. But she had a terminal illness.
Right.
She was going to die. And specifically in this story here, what Linnell is talking about is, because she's blaming her dad.
Right.
She's like, Dad, suffocated her, and now he's suffocating me, and that's why she would have rather died than stay here.
Right.
And she tells the story about this time that her mom ran away. Is that this scene?
I think so.
I'm not finding it specifically in my notes. But anyways, at some point, maybe here, maybe somewhere else, she tells a story about her mom running away and taking her with her.
Right.
And Dad came and brought them home. And, that's when things really went downhill for that. And we'll learn later that that's not really true.
I mean, it's funny because the story is true to an extent. It's just that it's just painted in a very different way.
She's painting it that her mom was trying to escape her father. And that's not the case.
Right.
We'll learn the truth is that she was trying to not die in front of her kid.
Right.
Is what was happening. She was trying to not put them through this pain of her dying, which is so sad. But the point is she didn't take her daughter with her.
Right.
Linnell is either making that up or completely delusional about what happened.
I mean, based on most of her behavior in this episode, I'm kind of leaning towards delusional, honestly. But, so Sam says the head of Decca Records is willing to hear them sing as soon as he can find them a place to sing, and Linnell says that can happen at Bobby's Club. Sam is reluctant, but eventually is talked into it.
Yeah, he realizes that's really their only option at this point.
Right. He keeps going along with things as the episode progresses, with things he doesn't really want to do, but he realizes that Linnell is gonna, go do this thing regardless.
Right, and he makes her promise no contract with Bobby, and she's gonna finish high school.
Right. Sam also wants to invite the Reverend, because he's still on the kick of trying to get.
Yeah, he basically says, if he comes and hears you sing, he's going to accept your career. Mm. I'm not sure I see the logic in that.
I don't either.
We know that in the original history he did go, and he pulled her off stage in the middle of the performance. So I don't know why getting him there you think is going to make it better. You should probably be trying to not get him there.
Right.
Let her get some contract with an actual record label, and then convince him that's a good idea.
Maybe.
Not at this guy's club.
Perhaps.
Where, they basically just got into a complete fist fight and told each other, if I see you again, I'm going to kill you.
That is basically the context of that conversation. And I see that's my problem with some aspects of this episode is similar to Let Them Play, in the sense that the position that the characters have are so extreme that when you get to the end of the episode, like, no, I don't see how the character got all the way back over here.
Based only on these couple conversations that Sam has with them.
I mean, I guess basically that is my main issue with this episode. Otherwise, I mean, I love the acting in this episode. I love a lot of the story. The singing is very nice and emotional. It's a good episode. I'm not totally convinced by how this episode ends. But, yeah, we'll get to there.
I mean, he had literally just forbade her from going in that club and singing. And now in the next scene, we're going to be like, hey, do you want to come hear us sing?
Right, yeah.
How does Sam think that's going to be a good idea?
Right.
Just inviting him is going to make the difference. He's going to be like, oh, I told you you're not allowed to do that, but because you asked me to join you, great, we're going to have a great time.
So, according to Al, who has no data, Linnell still signs with Lee and has a miserable life. So they practice at Lee's club, and we meet Rainey, played by G. Smokey Campbell. 33 acting credits for him, including an episode of Matlock. He also has 23 credits in the camera and electrical department, and he worked on ER for 66 episodes, so once again, working with Eric LaSalle.
All right.
Rainey and Sam go over something related to the performance. I'm not really following this.
So Rainey's making the charts for the music. He's arranging the music from this, yet to be released song for them to be able to sing it because he's the one playing the music.
Gotcha.
Which is something that the performer should have brought. They're supposed to bring this for the musician, but they didn't, and he's the one who's like, "Oh, I'll handle it for you." So this is him still like doing favors for the girls to help them.
So Lee gets Linnell alone and makes the moves on her. Al notices and gets Sam's attention, and Al acts kind of like he's the one being kissed because he was there. He acts like Lee basically actually kissed him somehow. He's all disgusted and all that. Sam breaks it up. Lee demands an apology from the both of them, or they will not sing tomorrow. Linnell blames Sam and says if he doesn't apologize, she'll go on herself. Al says that's what she does. The father breaks up the show, etc., etc. Sam joins the Reverend, who's talking to his dead wife in the church. The Reverend has a very different story of the same events that Linnell blames her father for. We get a very different spin on that. We already discussed, what she was actually doing when she ran away. But Linnell said at that point that the Reverend kind of prevented her from having friends over. When in this scene, it's basically presented from the Reverend's point of view that was actually something that she did,
that she had him. Just kind of stopped living, long before she died.
Right.
She was the one who decided to just lock herself up in the house. And what he's blaming himself for is he just let Linnell take care of her, and he left the two of them there to grieve and deal with her illness, and he hid in the church. And wasn't there at all during those 6 months. Which is,
not good. I would say that's kind of that definitely is something to blame himself for, but it's not the same story that Linnell was telling.
No, not at all.
No. So he thinks he lost his daughter. Sam thinks if he stands with her by her, he won't. But the Reverend says that he can't do that. Al tells him that there's a 70% chance Linnell is going to apologize and go on to sing. and not win the contest. She doesn't end up winning.
Right. And then she gets even more desperate and things get even worse.
So Paula is not supporting what Linnell wants to do here. It's clear Linnell pretty much lives in her own reality.
So Linnell thinks she's going to apologize and she's going to go on and be a star, and that Bobby's not asking for anything in return. She's not getting it.
Yeah, I mean...
Even though, when that last scene happened, she said, like, you're hurting me.
Right. I think she's just deliberately doing everything she can not to see it, because her ambition, her desire to live out her dreams, it's blinding to the point where she physically will not allow herself to see who the type of guy that Bobby Lee is actually is.
But Paula clearly sees.
Yeah.
Paula gets it, and she's trying to explain to Linnell, like, you know what's going to happen, right? Like, you know what he's actually asking of you.
Right.
And you're okay with that? Why are you okay with that?
Right. And it's funny because, it's not atypical for a 15-year-old girl to be this stupid. Like, to not see something clear as day. But it's, like I said, also it's not just her youth that is preventing her from seeing it. So she keeps defending Bobby Lee despite all the evidence to the contrary. Sam gets involved in this. Sam ends up realizing that she's going to go on no matter what. So he agrees to apologize and to go on and win the contest.
Right. And as soon as he does that, now Paula goes along too.
Right. It's an interesting strategy. I'm not sure I totally buy it.
The fact that he hasn't been able to stop her, and no matter what he says.
Yeah.
The data still shows that she's going to go on. So at least being there is doing something.
Right. He can't get through her thick skull and make her see reality.
Now, here's my question. Is the guy from Decca Records coming or not?
It's never discussed. I don't think we know. But yeah. That's the other problem.
Right. Like, that's the scene I needed, is like, hey, they got a record contract with Decca, because...
That doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen!
As far as we know, she signed with Bobby Lee, which was a bad thing. But anyway. So, before the girls can apologize, the Reverend tries to convince Bobby Lee not to let them sing in the contest and to wait 3 years, that she'll have the same talent 3 years from now. Linnell and co end up witnessing this. Sam says to trust her, and Linnell eventually talks him into going on. And yeah, this is another moment like I don't totally buy the moment the Reverend just suddenly changes his mind. He's like, go ahead, have fun, sing.
Right. So
it's just too dramatic.
It's
switch.
Part of, I guess, that conversation Sam had with him in the church, like telling him, if you support her, you're not going to lose her. However, he didn't come out of that conversation coming here to support her. He came here to prevent her from singing.
Right.
So he wasn't completely convinced.
No.
I guess seeing her in that gown made the difference.
I guess so. So they end up singing Heat Wave, and it's a very successful rendition. The Reverend ends up leaving after they...
he just kind of skips out the back door. Meanwhile, we have our other person in this, JoJo, who is the guy from, what theater was it? The Regal. So he comes up to Bobby and tells him, oh, you're right about Linnell. Have her at the Regal tomorrow. Basically, they won the competition. They're getting the audition at the Regal. And JoJo is played by Richard McGregor. He was in 2 episodes of MacGyver and an episode of Charmed.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's a success, right? They won. They're going to get this audition at the Regal, but we don't find out, like, how does that play out?
Right.
What happened with Bobby Lee?
Right, exactly.
The audience is cheering for the Dovettes. They're all really happy. Obviously, it was great. Bobby tells them that they won. Like you said, the Reverend snuck out the back door. Linnell doesn't seem to notice or care that her dad left at this moment.
I think we hear her ask where her dad is. I think we sort of hear her say that in the crowd noise.
So Sam leaves,
right,
to go meet the Reverend. He knows where he's going to be. He meets him at the church. So he just walks out on Linnell and leaves her with Bobby.
I mean, Paul is there.
Paul is there, I guess, but we don't get a like, hey, look out for her.
Right.
Don't let them be alone together.
Yeah.
We just catch up with Sam talking to the Reverend at the church again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really lucky for Sam that.
Right.
That Linnell made the right choices after he left her.
Yeah, I don't see where Sam has an influence on how anything turns out here. The Reverend is convinced that Linnell has gone for good, but then Linnell enters the church singing. Her dad gets emotional, Al is emotional, Sam is emotional. They embrace, and Sam leaves. And, it's a beautiful scene and all that, but how did we get here? And what did this actually resolve? Because it was, as we mentioned, we don't know, we haven't heard that she did not sign with Bobby Lee, which was a bad thing. Did she end up signing with somebody else? Did she end up signing a contract with Deco?
We don't know that she actually signed the contract, right? Her apologizing to him and saying she'll sign a contract doesn't mean she signed a contract. But also, she's 15 and doesn't have the right to just sign into a contract.
But fair enough. But I think we should have heard.
Yeah, we never got any kind of resolution. Follow-up, right? We never got a here's what happens story. And I can see why they didn't, because we were in this emotional, happy place, and they didn't want to override that with some dialogue of what happens. But I like hearing what happens.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, she decided to come here and make up with her father and let him know that he didn't lose her. Right?
So how did she get here, though?
Exactly.
Because, everything we've heard, she blames her for her mom's death. How did that turn around for her?
Right, because we never got any conversations of her even hearing the stuff her dad has to say. Now, it was very clear in this scene right before she arrives that the reason he was so scared of her success is because he doesn't want to lose her.
Right.
If she becomes a successful star, she's leaving. And that's why, even though she appears to be like, oh, I think she can be successful, he's like, oh, I've lost her. And she's like, no, you haven't lost me. But where did that turn around?
Right, exactly.
Because Sam's not there talking to her. He ran right after the Reverend.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's not enough that happens that convinces me that this is a healed relationship.
Like a lot of episodes, I feel like the ending's just a little rushed. The resolution's just a little rushed.
Now, it's a beautiful scene. The way it plays out is a beautiful scene. It just, I don't know how we actually got here, is my problem. It's a decent watch. It's fun. It's, I like the dramatic side of it. I mentioned before that I tend to favor the episodes where Sam leaps into a woman, where they're not so blatant about it.
Right.
Where the joke isn't every 5 minutes, ha, Sam leapt into a woman.
Right.
That they did a lot with earlier episodes.
Yeah, and by this point, we're in late season 4. He's done it enough times that, he doesn't focus on that. He deals with, wearing these dresses and high heels, and he's a little uncomfortable with the singing and dancing, but he does it. And I think those scenes where Al was teaching him moves, then he's teaching the girls moves. I love those scenes. It was really funny. I don't see how it worked out.
Right. Apparently it did.
But it did, and it was fun to watch. Let's see, the only character actor I didn't shout out was Sam's mirror image. Cherie was played by Tiffany Jameson, and this is her only credit.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, I still had fun with it. I love the music. I love the settings. I love the costumes. I loved just the aesthetic of the episode.
Right.
And yeah, there's some great stuff there between the the family members. But it is a little maybe too easy and rushed at the end, which I feel like we say that a lot.
We do.
I think we overanalyze.
It's not.
I mean, that's what we do, obviously.
Yes, I would say that it's not. We're not the only ones to raise that criticism. I've heard of Christopher DeFilippis from the Quantum Leap podcast also say that about Quantum Leap a lot, the original series, that the endings are a little too pat. So it's not like we're the only ones to say it, but yeah.
Yeah.
So next week, I forgot to shout out Brian Green, who finished the new owlsplace.com site.
Yeah, so he unveiled the update to Owl's Place, to the website, yesterday for Sam's birthday. And we're going to have him here next week.
Yes.
Live and in person.
Yep.
He's going to do our next episode with us.
Yes. We're hoping to get him on, assuming that everything works out, we're going to have him do Ghost Ship with us next week.
So that's going to be interesting. I think it's going to throw us off having a third person.
I'm sure.
So it might be a little wonky for us because our flow will be a little different, trying to get a third person's opinions in on a regular episode. But then we're also going to do an interview with him and talk all about Owl's Place and the updates and everything that he wants to share with us. So it's going to be a fun time.
Yep.
And then
we're going to go see Scott Bakula in Man of La Mancha
Yeah, it's so
with Brian
exciting.
Green, where we're going to meet up with some fellow podcasters and maybe some other people.
yeah.
So it's
And
gonna
then
be-
hopefully we'll have some good content to bring and tell you guys about our trip once we
Yeah.
get back.
Yes, absolutely.
So lots of good Quantum Leap related stuff coming in the next week or two.
All right, so do we have anything else to say before concluding?
I think that's all I got. What do you think of the next episode? Just before your quick thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think I enjoy that
Before
episode.
we actually do our rewatch.
I think I remember enjoying it. It's a Bermuda theme,
Bermuda
Triangle themed episode, and I happen to really like Bermuda Triangle themed stuff back in the day.
Yeah, I think I enjoy this the episode Ghost Ship. It's one that has like a really narrow cast. We spent almost the entire, actually I think the entire thing, other than maybe a few seconds, in the airplane.
I'm pretty sure we're there the entire time.
So it's kind of a bottle episode, really,
Right,
where
yeah.
we don't move a lot. We don't have background actors.
Nope. Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So it should be interesting to talk about. I guess it's a good thing that it's so simple because we're adding Brian to the mix. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So we'd like to hear from you. Stacie can be reached
I
at.
can reach on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to our channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off. 36 minutes.